I held the baby in my arms, his baby, with tears burning in my eyes, not because I felt joy, but because that tiny heartbeat was the proof of the betrayal that nearly destroyed me. You see, I wasn't supposed to be holding this child like he was mine. I wasn't supposed to be rocking him to sleep, feeding him, or wiping away his tears at 2 a.m. That role was supposed to belong to someone else, someone chosen honestly. But instead I was handed this child like a consolation prize after being lied to, cheated on, and broken. My name is Amanda. And the man I gave my heart to, the man I believed would be my forever, Lucas, he shattered me in ways I never imagined possible. We met in college. He was charming, wildly intelligent, and had that quiet intensity that made you feel like the most important person in the room. First, he made me laugh like no one ever had. We talked for hours about life, love, kids, and everything in between. We even picked out baby names long before we were ready. It felt like destiny. I invested years into our relationship. Years of loyalty, emotional support, sacrifice. When he lost his job, I worked too just to keep us afloat. When he doubted himself, I became his biggest cheerleader. I believed in his dreams more than I believed in my own, thinking one day he'd look back and say, Amanda stood by me through it all. But the moment I needed him most, he gave his heart and more to someone else. The signs were there, I'll admit. The late nights, the sudden business trips, the locked phone that used to be an open book. But love is a strange thing. It convinces you to ignore what your intuition screams. You tell yourself you're paranoid. You justify the distance. You trust when you shouldn't. Until one day trust breaks so loud it echoes. It was a random Tuesday afternoon. I was cleaning the kitchen when a message popped up on his iPad. He had forgotten to log out of his account. I never snooped, but something about the preview stopped me cold. He just said his first word today. He said, "Dada. Wish you were here." My heart dropped. I clicked the message. What I saw next stole the breath from my lungs. A photo of Lucas holding a baby. His baby. Born nearly a year ago. With a woman I'd never met, but who clearly meant something to him while he was still lying next to me at night. The betrayal wasn't just the infidelity. It was the months of pretending. The kisses. The dinner dates. The fake plans for our future. He looked me in the eyes every single day and let me dream, while knowing he had created a secret life behind my back. When I confronted him, I expected tears, apologies, something that showed he understood the gravity of what he'd done. But instead he said, "I didn't know how to tell you, but you always wanted a child. Maybe this is a sign." A sign? He had a baby behind my back and thought asking me to help raise it would heal me? I felt like I was drowning in betrayal. Everything I believed in shattered. My future? Rerouted. My identity? Questioned. And yet, when I met that baby, when I looked into his innocent little eyes, I couldn't hate him. He didn't ask for this mess. He didn't choose his parents. He was a victim just like me. And somehow holding him cracked open a part of me I thought was gone forever. But Lucas? He hadn't changed. He thought I'd forgive and forget, that I'd become his safety net while he continued to play house with two lives. He wanted me to be the backup plan. What he didn't realize was, I wasn't anyone's plan B. And what came next? Let's just say, no one saw it coming. After that day everything changed, but not in the way Lucas expected. He thought I'd cry, maybe scream, then come crawling back the way I always did. But something in me snapped. Not with rage, not even with revenge, but with the calm that comes right before a storm. A storm that would strip away every illusion, every mask, and every ounce of control he thought he had over me. I packed my things in silence. No screaming match. No emotional meltdown. Just quiet tears as I folded the pieces of a life I never truly had. He stood there confused, watching me zip up a suitcase like I was walking away from a weekend, not from years of shared lies. "You're really leaving? Just like that?" he asked. "No," I said, my voice low. "I'm not just leaving. I'm walking away from the fantasy I built around a man who never existed." He tried to stop me. He offered apologies, money, therapy, promises of change. Even said I could be part of the baby's life, like that was a gift. But I didn't want his guilt-soaked handouts. What I needed was my power back. The hardest part wasn't leaving the man who betrayed me. It was walking away from the child who never hurt me. The baby boy who looked up at me with eyes that didn't lie. Who smiled when he heard my voice. Who clung to me when his mother dropped him off at Lucas's house, too tired to care, too detached to see the damage she and Lucas had created. Weeks passed. I tried to move on, but I couldn't shake the memory of that baby. The way he cried when I left. The way he reached for me like I was the only safe place he knew. It haunted me. Until one night I got a call from Lucas. "Amanda, please. I don't know what to do. His mom just left. She said she's not coming back. I can't do this alone. He won't stop crying. He needs you." I should have hung up. I should have let him drown in the mess he made. But something inside me whispered this isn't about him anymore. So I went. Not for Lucas. But for the child. When I arrived, the house was a wreck. Toys everywhere. Dirty bottles in the sink. The baby was screaming, red-faced and desperate for comfort. Lucas looked like a man unraveling. I didn't say a word to him. I went straight to the baby. Picked him up. And just like that, the screaming stopped. He buried his face in my neck like he'd finally found his home. That moment broke me in the most unexpected way. As I realized, he wasn't mine. But in some ways I was his. Lucas watched us silently. And for the first time I saw fear in his eyes. Not because he was losing control, but because he knew he could never be the parent this child needed. But I could. And that terrified him. Because the woman he betrayed? She was gone. But the woman who stood in her place? She was no one's victim anymore. And what I did next? To say, I didn't just walk back into that child's life. I claimed it. The weeks that followed blurred into sleepless nights and quiet moments filled with a kind of love I'd never known. Not romantic love. Something deeper. Raw. Honest. The baby Jaden became my purpose. I wasn't trying to play mother. I wasn't pretending. But he looked at me like I was everything safe in a world that kept letting him down. Lucas started relying on me. Too much. At first it was little things. "Can you watch him for a few hours? I have work." Then it was, "Can you stay overnight? He sleeps better when you're around." Before I knew it, I was doing feedings, laundry, doctor's visits. All while Lucas disappeared for hours, sometimes days. He'd show up smelling like cologne that wasn't mine. With excuses. With tired eyes and tangled lies. "I'm doing my best," he'd say. Well, he was doing the bare minimum and watching me pick up the pieces. One night, I was rocking Jaden to sleep when Lucas walked in and said, "You've always had a gift with him. You're like his real mom." I froze. Real mom? I wasn't flattered. I was furious. Because suddenly I saw the pattern. Lucas wasn't asking for help. He was outsourcing responsibility. And using my heart as free labor. That night, after Jaden fell asleep, I sat Lucas down. "You can't keep treating me like a nanny with a heart." His face twisted. "That's not what this is." "Really?" I asked. "Because I feed him, care for him, love him, and you get to run from every consequence and still play Father of the Year." He didn't speak. So I kept going. "I won't abandon Jaden. But I'm not here to clean up your mess. I'm not your redemption arc. I'm not the woman you broke who came back to fix your story." Lucas tried to argue, but I was done listening. I gave him two options: step up as a father or step aside. Not for me. For the baby who deserved better than half love and part-time parenting. He looked at me with those tired eyes again, but this time they didn't move me. As I realized, love without accountability is just manipulation dressed as care. And I was done being manipulated. So I made a plan. Not to take custody. Not to fight his battles. But to build a life where I could protect my peace, and still show up for Jaden on my terms. I set boundaries. Clear ones. Lucas could no longer drop him off like a package on my doorstep. I offered to help, but only if there was structure, respect, and responsibility. He didn't like that. Because it meant he couldn't weaponize my kindness anymore. But I didn't care. Because for the first time I wasn't reacting to pain, I was responding with power. I wasn't the woman who stayed broken. I wasn't the one who begged to be chosen. I was the woman who had learned to love herself enough to walk through fire and not come out burned. And if Lucas couldn't meet me where I stood, then he could watch from the distance. Just like I had, Every time he chose someone else over the life we were supposed to build. There's a silence that speaks louder than any fight. And Lucas heard it the night I showed up, not as the girl still waiting for his love, but as the woman who had nothing left to lose. It was Jaden's first birthday. Lucas had planned something small, a last-minute backyard cookout that his mother mostly organized. He asked me to come. Not begged. Just assumed I would. And I did, for Jaden. I showed up in a soft blue dress, with a gift wrapped neatly in my arms and peace wrapped around my heart like armor. Lucas opened the door and froze when he saw me. Like he didn't expect me to glow without his name attached to my smile. He tried to make small talk, nervously laughing, offering me a drink. But I wasn't there to play hostess to his guilt. I stayed polite but distant. I kissed Jaden's chubby cheeks, held him while he giggled, and gave him the handmade photo album I'd spent weeks putting together. One that captured every moment of the year he would have forgotten, but I refused to let him miss. When Lucas flipped through the pages, something shifted in his eyes. There it was, the realization. I had shown up for his son in all the ways he hadn't. I was the one in the blurry late-night photos, bottle in hand. I was the one smiling beside milestones he barely remembered. I was in every frame of joy and he wasn't. He cleared his throat. You didn't have to do all this. I looked him dead in the eye and said, but someone had to. That's when it hit him. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't trying to win him back or prove my worth or play the martyr. I was free. He tried to pull me aside after cake. Can we talk? I gave a sad smile. We've said everything that needed saying, Lucas. You just weren't listening. He reached for my hand. I stepped back. Because the truth is, the man who let you break in front of him and walked away doesn't deserve to hold you when you heal. Later that night, I watched him from across the yard, holding his son with shaky hands, lost in thought. He looked like a man realizing the weight of everything he'd thrown away. But I wasn't there to carry his regret. He asked, so this is it? I didn't blink. It has been. You just didn't know it. He stood there, stunned, because for the first time he couldn't feel my heart beating for him. And that was the moment he truly lost me. Not because I left, but because I stayed, with boundaries, with self-respect, with dignity he could no longer reach. He had a front row seat to the woman I'd become. And he wasn't invited to touch her anymore. They always come back. When the damage they cause starts keeping them up at night. When the silence you leave behind becomes deafening. When they realize the woman they broke didn't shatter, she rebuilt. Lucas came back not with a ring or an apology, but with confusion disguised as hope. He started sending long texts at 2 a.m., messages filled with nostalgia, half confessions and what-ifs. I saw your post. You looked happy. I miss your laugh. Jaden misses you too. I made mistakes, but maybe we could talk? But I didn't owe him another conversation just because he finally noticed my absence. Still, closure has a strange pull. So I agreed to meet him at a quiet cafe. Middle of the afternoon. No illusions. He showed up in that same gray sweater I once loved, the one that used to smell like comfort before it started smelling like betrayal. He smiled like we still had time. I've been thinking, he began, stirring his coffee like it mattered more than the storm brewing inside me. Maybe things didn't have to end the way they did. I tilted my head. You mean with you choosing someone else while expecting me to still raise your child? He flinched. And I smiled. Because growth looks like calmly reminding someone of their chaos, without letting it pull you back in. I was scared, he admitted. I didn't know how to be a father, and you were everything. That's the problem, I said. I was everything. And you made me feel like I was nothing. He reached across the table, desperate now. I've changed. Maybe he had. But I had too. I had found strength in solitude. Joy in my own reflection. Love, in places he never looked. I'm glad, I whispered. For Jaden's sake, I hope you really have. But I'm not the girl who begged you to stay anymore. I'm the woman who finally chose herself. He sat back, defeated. So this is goodbye? I nodded slowly. It's been goodbye, Lucas. You just weren't listening. That night I walked home lighter. Not because I finally got the apology, but because I realized I didn't need it anymore. He didn't get to rewrite our story. He got to watch the sequel from the audience. Because I was no longer waiting in the wings of his indecision. I was center stage, in a life I built with no script, no director, and no one to dim my light. He tried to come back, but I was already gone. And I was never going back. They say healing isn't linear. They're right. Some days felt like freedom. Others like quiet grief. But each step forward, no matter how shaky, brought me closer to the woman I was becoming. I poured myself into rebuilding not just my career but my peace. Therapy taught me that someone breaking you isn't proof that you were unworthy, only that they never deserved your softness in the first place. I found joy in little routines. Morning walks with music in my ears. Hot coffee brewed just the way I liked it. A cozy apartment filled with books and laughter. And eventually love. It didn't happen overnight. In fact, I almost didn't believe it when it did. His name was Marcus. We met at a friend's fundraiser. A quiet, observant man with kind eyes and a voice that made everything sound like reassurance. He didn't try to fix me. He made space for my scars. He knew about Lucas. About the child I helped raise and lost. About the betrayal. The hurt. The rebuilding. He never flinched. Instead, he asked me how I liked my ex and remembered. He brought flowers on random Tuesdays. He held me when the memories returned uninvited. He showed up, consistently, honestly, completely. We got married in a small garden ceremony with just close friends and family. I wore a champagne dress and walked myself down the aisle, smiling the entire way, because this time I wasn't being rescued. I was choosing love. Healthy whole love. And years later we had 2 beautiful daughters. My life was nothing like I imagined. It was better. But fate has a way of circling back. One evening as I was helping my oldest with homework, I heard a knock on the door. And there he was. Jaden. Taller now. Teenaged. But those same kind wondering eyes. "Hi," he said softly. "I hope it's okay. I just wanted to see you." Tears welled in my eyes before I could even respond. He stepped in, hugged me like no time had passed. "I've missed you. You were the only one who ever made me feel safe." We sat and talked for hours. He told me about school, his dreams, his struggles. Turns out, Lucas had a string of failed relationships after I left. His career stalled. He never quite figured out how to be the man he pretended to be. "I love my dad," Jaden said. "But I wish he had been more like you." That moment healed something deeper than all the therapy in the world. As I realized, my love had mattered. I wasn't just a placeholder or a backup. I was a safe place. A home. Jaden visited often after that. He adored Marcus, called him Mr. Cool, and played tag with my daughters like they were his own sisters. Me. I no longer wondered what would have happened if Lucas had chosen differently. Because life chose better for me. I built a life I didn't need to escape from. I became a mother, not through blood but through love. And then again through birth. And the man who broke me? He got to watch from a distance as the woman he once dismissed became everything he thought he'd find in someone else. That's karma. Not revenge. Not spite. Just watching the one you underestimated become unforgettable without you. I let go of the past. And life gave me a future more beautiful than I ever imagined. I am her now, the woman I once needed, the mother those children deserved, and the love that healed. And that's the ending I never saw coming. But it was always mine. If you've ever been broken and had to rebuild yourself piece by piece, know this: you are not alone. And your story isn't over. If this touched your heart, like, share, and subscribe for more stories that prove pain can turn into power. And endings can bloom into new beginnings. Your healing might just inspire someone else's.